Sheep farming is an ancient way of making money, but in this modern age, there are hardly any shepherds seen guiding their herds of sheep around. Instead of relying on fresh grass grazing to produce good quality wool and keep their sheep healthy, they choose to modernize with time. Sheep farmers these days use highly modern technology to take care of their sheep and keep everything in order. All the work that was manually done in the past is now machine operated. But how do they do it? What types of machines do they use? Don't worry, we've done all the research for you, and in today's video, we'll discuss the whole process of sheep farming. From breeding to livestock, the journey of a sheep that helps feed and clothe the majority of the population today. Sheep farming is particularly popular because sheep can be raised in many climates, which has made it a good source of livelihood. But to make a business out of it, the first most important step is reproduction. Female sheep, also known as ewes, generally reach maturity after 6 to 8 months, while male sheep, known as rams, take 4 to 6 months to reach sexual maturity. Many farmers these days choose rams to impregnate a herd of sheep at once, while others let the breeding take place naturally. But letting it happen naturally may not be a good idea because rams fight among themselves to assert dominance, and without human intervention, they can even kill each other in the process. This is the main reason why the former method of choosing one ram for a herd is very popular. But even so, the farmer can only hope that the rams had managed to do their job properly because there are very few ways to determine pregnancy in sheep, and so the farmers can only wait till the sheep start to show some sign of being pregnant. Not to say there aren't any methods. Farmers have gotten creative with their ways of determining the breeding process. Some farmers put a special harness with crayon on the rams that leaves its imprint on the ewe's fur coat, hence making it easy for the farmer to know. Whereas some avoid doing so in fear of affecting the fur coat on the sheep that's equally valuable for the market. As the lambing period approaches, the female is seen to have a sullen appearance in the hip bone area and becomes restless. Labor in sheep can last several hours. While some breeds can produce a litter of lambs, most sheep give birth to 1 or 2 lambs at once. Thereafter, the nursing period of the lamb starts, when they rely on their mother's milk to ensure good health. Almost all ewes nurse their lambs, and those who refuse do it for their own state of health. In that case, the lamb is provided with alternative feeding while the mother is taken care of. In cases where the lamb refuses to feed, a tube is attached to their stomachs to force feed them in order to save their life. It's important that the sheep drinks lots of colostrum, which is the first milk that comes from a mother's body after birth. It contains protein, fat, and antibodies that ensure the lamb's good health. Once stabilized, the lambs are now ready to take their markings, which include ear tagging, docking, castration, and vaccination. When done at a young age, the ear tagging produces little to no discomfort. The sheep that are not intended for breeding go through castration. In almost all breeds, the tails are docked because it's said to be the source of many diseases, and so it's considered important in maintaining the health of the sheep. Lastly, they're vaccinated against any possible disease that could affect them or the sheep around them. The lamb is first vaccinated after 2 to 4 weeks, and later another vaccination is provided after 3 months. Vaccination is strongly recommended by doctors to prevent any internal disease in the sheep. Likewise, they are very much affected by external parasites like maggots, sheepkeds, lice, and fleas that gather around their wool and can eventually lead to death if left untreated. One of the most common methods to prevent flea-infested death is to shave the wool near the sheep's rump or its backside. This prevents their dump from being stuck in the wool and hence successfully prevents any disease caused by it. This method is also popularly called crutching. Now, moving on to their living conditions, sheep require a stable living condition regardless of their climate. They need protection from every side, from wind and sun and possible predators. In farms these days, vast pens separate a herd of sheep from another. It gives a sense of order to the farming, where there are more sheep than one can count. A set number of sheep are placed in each pen and they feed and stay together in a flock. It's important for the farmer to check their sheep at least once a day to make sure none of the sheep have fallen ill. Sheep don't naturally show when they fall ill. Their natural instinct is made to hide their illness from the predator. So no, your sheep won't show that they're ill. You have to figure that out on your own. And once you do, it's essential to quarantine them. This is where the divider machine comes in. It's a heavy metal gate that opens from all sides that allows you to separate your flock of sheep. Farmers use this device to separate the pregnant sheep, male, female, lamb, and sick sheep from one another. This is essential because disease spreads easily from one sheep to another. Sheep hate being separated from their flock, so it's easy if ones with similar issues are kept together. Moving on to what they eat, fresh grass grazing was a reliable source of feeding sheep in the past, but not now. One cannot even imagine managing such a large number of sheep simply by grazing. There'd be no grass left. Instead, farmers use hay, corn, and supplements to feed their sheep. But imagine mixing that huge amount of hay and vitamin supplements. It sounds like an impossible task. This is where modern technology comes into play. The majority of farms, big and small, these days house a food mixing machine that mixes well all the hay and supplements. It breaks down the hay and makes it easier for sheep to eat. A feeding alley that covers the entire pen in the farm is usually where sheep eat their food. A similar alley is also made for water. This is typically how feeding takes place on the farms. Speaking of water, it's essential for the sheep to stay clean. It not only helps prevent disease and parasites, but it also helps maintain the quality of their wool. Farmers take the hygiene of their flocks very seriously, bathing them each day. As far as hygiene goes, it's especially important to foot bathe the sheep every now and then. This is where the farmer trims the overgrown hooves on a sheep's foot that makes them lazy. Now that you have a herd of healthy sheep, it's time for sheep shearing. Sheep that are not meant for slaughter are typically shorn for their wool. The shearing takes place every once in a while when the wool is overgrown and ready to be sheared. Shearing can be done by either manual blade or machine shears. Both are equally popular methods. This process usually takes place in the shearing shed, which is a facility on the farm specially designed to shear the sheep. Farmers usually hire shearers who are highly skilled and patient. After all, it's their livelihood at stake. Some countries pay the sheep shearers by the number of sheep they've sheared, not by the hour. This is why many prioritize time and precision instead of caring for the animal. The wool is then wrapped and goes into the wool bag, later to be sold at a suitable price. The sheep who are not kept for shearing suffer a different fate, though. They're gathered and shipped to the slaughterhouse where they become a source of food for the population. These days, farmers don't get too much profit from just the wool, so selling the sheep is important to make a livelihood and a profit. Not an easy job, it seems, so why should one do it? Why are the farmers investing their time and money in farming these sheep? Well, one, it's a multi-purpose business. Sheep are useful in many ways. They provide meat, milk, and wool. All three combined are quite profitable. Second is the low investment needed to start sheep farming. The farm can be built with the basics of things without too much money spent. Sheep can adjust to any environment and are easier to handle, and they also grow at a fast rate. Next, extra low labor cost. Many of the farms are family businesses, where family members are equally responsible, and even so, hiring some help doesn't cost much in comparison to other businesses. Lastly, there'll always be a demand for sheep products on the market. Sheep meat has demand for both local and export markets. As they contribute to the local and national economy, sheep are viewed as part of the animal husbandry of the agriculture department. Large-scale sheep farming provides employment in the rural section of the country. It can be done by anyone who's looking to start a business, owns the land, or is unemployed looking for a means to earn a livelihood. In short, it's easy for anyone to get into sheep farming. Once you start your business, you're approached by people who are interested in doing business with you. It doesn't require much effort to market its products, as there will always be a demand for it. When you see it that way, it doesn't seem too bad. So that was it, the whole process and making of sheep farming. Now that you've had an insider look at the topic, what are your thoughts about it? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. While you're here, go ahead and click on one of the videos on the screen and enjoy.
Taste the lean meat. Bite down on the tender underbelly and feel the aroma of the turkey. Whether you want it roasted, fried, or marinated, it still delivers the amazing taste that makes your mouth water. Yummy! Whether it's the broad-breasted bronze or the white or the exotic species, turkey always tastes good. And the market demand for turkey meat grows annually, so commercial farmers have been quick to supply to growing consumer demand worldwide. How are turkeys reared and processed in the best conditions for human consumption? How long does it take from hatching to full maturity? Join us as we take a look at the modern facilities that make it possible for millions of turkeys to be processed just in time for dinner. Because turkey meat is the leanest, people favor it. Turkey meat has 24% protein, 6.6% fat, and 162 calories per 100 gram of meat. There are minerals like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron, selenium, and zinc. In addition, it is abundant in vitamins including niacin, vitamin B6, and vitamin B12. It has a low cholesterol content and is high in essential fatty acids and unsaturated fatty acids. According to a market analysis, a male turkey sold at 24 weeks old weighing 10 to 20 kilograms with a cost of 300 to 450 rupees will generate a profit of 500 to 600 rupees. Similar to a male, a female will yield a profit of 300 to 400 rupees over the course of 24 weeks. Additionally, the turkey can be raised in semi- and scavenging settings. The turkey will begin laying beginning in the 31st week of age, and its gestation period will last for 24 weeks. Under the right management of artificial lighting and nutrition, turkey hens can produce 60 to 100 eggs annually, and it's usually in the afternoon when around 70% of the eggs will be deposited. The colored turkey eggs weigh about 85 grams. It has a hard shell and is prominently pointed at one end. The incubation period of the eggs lasts for 28 days. The state-of-the-art turkey incubator can accommodate tens of thousands of eggs. The eggs should be flipped once every hour on a daily basis in order to improve hatchability and avoid soiling and breakage. The eggs should be culled frequently. The brooding stage in turkey lasts for 0 to 4 weeks, but during the winter, the brooding stage might last up to 5 or 6 weeks. As a general rule, young turkeys require twice the amount of hover area as young chickens. You can use infrared bulbs, gas brooders, as well as conventional brooding systems for brooding day-old chicks. But the first 4 weeks of life have an average death rate of 6 to 10%. Because of their poor vision and anxiety in the first few days of life, infants are naturally reluctant to eat and drink. They must therefore be fed by force. One of the main causes of young children's early mortality is the starvation problem. Therefore, care should be made when providing feed and water to young turkeys. Milk should be force-fed at a rate of 100 milliliters per liter of water, and up to 15 days, 1 boiled egg must be given for every 10 infants. This will cover the little one's needs for protein and calories. By lightly tapping the container with your fingers, you can draw young animals to the feed. Young animals will be drawn to feeders and waterers that have colored marbles or pebbles in them. Given that turkeys enjoy greens, adding some chopped green leaves to the feed will increase feed consumption. Additionally, colorful egg fillers can be used as feeders for the first 2 days, and they can be reared by 2 systems, the intensive and free-range systems. Turkey rearing systems. In the free-range technique, we may raise 200 to 250 adult turkeys on 1 acre of fenced area. During the night, 3 to 4 square feet of shelter should be offered per bird. During scavenging, they should be shielded from predators. It is advisable to plant trees to create shade and a cooler environment. And rotating the range will help to lower the likelihood of parasite invasion. As for the free-range system, because turkeys are excellent scavengers, they can eat termites, earthworms, tiny insects, snails, kitchen scraps, and other high-protein sources, which will cut the cost of their food by half. In addition to this, it is possible to feed leguminous fodder such as lucerne, Desmanthus, stylo, etc. Free-ranging birds should get supplemental calcium in the form of oyster shells at a rate of 250 grams per week per bird to prevent leg weakness and lameness. A combination of both systems is a perfect farming model to avoid diseases in turkey. Since they are quite vulnerable to both internal and external parasites like roundworms and fowl mites respectively, deworming and dipping should be done once a month to boost the growth of the birds. The comfort of housing shields turkeys from the sun, rain, wind, and predators. The long axis of the house should run from east to west in hotter regions of the nation. Juvenile stock home should be at least 50 to 100 meters away from the adult house, and there should be at least 20 meters between each house. The open house's width should be greater than 9 meters. From floor to roof, a house's height might range from 2.6 to 3.3 meters. In order to prevent the splashing of rainwater, a 1 meter overhang should be included. The flooring in the homes should be inexpensive, safe and moisture-proof, preferably concrete. The overall management requirements for raising turkeys in a deep litter system are similar to those for raising chickens, but it's important to make sure there's enough room for the huge bird on the floor, waterer, and feeder. Turkey rearing should be done with caution. That's because turkeys typically have neurotic dispositions, so they become anxious at every stage. Therefore, access to guests to turkeys' home should be limited. And in order to prevent feather picking and cannibalism, young animals should be debeaked. At 1 day old or 3 to 5 weeks old, debeaking can be performed. Remove the beak at about half the way from the nose to the tip of the beak. De-snooding. To avoid head injuries from picking and fighting, the snood or dewbill, that fleshy protuberance dangling around the base of the beak, should also be removed. The snood can be removed at the day-old stage with finger pressure. Sharp scissors can be used to trim it off about 3 weeks old, just above the head. Another important measure to take is toe clipping. When a toe is just a day old, clipping is performed by removing the entire toenail and the toe tip just inside the outermost toe pad. That's how you make sure the turkeys remain in perfect condition before they mature for slaughter. But when compared to chicken, turkeys have higher requirements for calories, protein, vitamins, and minerals. The two sexes must be raised separately for better results because their protein and energy needs are different. Instead of putting food on the ground, feeders should be used, and when switching from one diet to another, it's best to do so gradually. Turkeys need a steady supply of clean water at all times, so during the summer, increase the number of waterers. It would be best to do so in the evening when it's cooler. The farm should be equipped with a ventilation fan and an adjustable temperature control system. The floor bedding should be a pre-prepared substrate with good water permeability to prevent sogginess and contamination of the birds. It's important because there are a number of diseases that commonly attack turkeys and many other poultry birds, some of which are arizonosis, fowl cholera, fowl pox, and blue comb disease. Arizonosis is caused by Salmonella arizona, symptoms of which are eye opacity and eventually blindness. The chicks are susceptible to this disease at 3 to 4 weeks. If you ever see a turkey with purplish head, know that it's fowl cholera caused by Pasteurella multocida. All that can be done is dispose of the dead birds and clean the place up properly. That's why it's important to have high hygienic standards when rearing poultry for commercial purposes. This is why young turkey chicks would have to be vaccinated so their chances of surviving childhood increases massively. As you already know, it's best for a commercial farm to have as many turkeys as possible develop into full maturity and even mate to produce a new generation of turkeys. And since turkeys mate seasonally, artificial insemination should be practiced, especially since the benefit of artificial insemination is that the flock of turkeys maintain high fertility all season long. Their weight on harvesting should be between 12 to 20 kilos. At this point, cages are loaded with live turkeys and taken out in a forklift. The birds are stunned, hanged upside down and placed in a jacuzzi of hot water. This makes the feathers easy to pull without peeling off the skin. The tail feather puller removes the tail feathers and a jet of clean water rinses the turkeys. The hawk feathers are pulled off and now the turkeys are completely featherless. The legs are cut off from the scales down and the turkeys are supplied to the evisceration line. You might want to close your eyes for this one. The Thor eviscerator tears open the turkey's gut and the cropper forces out the innards. The inside-outside washer does just that, and the tail cutter removes the tail in a clean slice. Now the turkeys are loaded to the butcher room where the meat is sized according to the consumer requirements and packaged for sale.
If you're enjoying this video, please leave a like and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our videos. When you think of deer, you see a vivid image of wildlife and creatures with giant antlers. But we have also heard the horror stories of poaching and hunting of these poor animals. But did you know that there's a middle way now? Deer farming, or more specifically, deer farming for their velvet. Did you know deer velvet extract has exceptional medical values? So make sure to watch the video till the end so you don't miss out on anything. But before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Deer farming of any kind has always been a source of big controversy. What's with all the ruthless killing the poor animals have always been subjected to even in wildlife. Many countries forbid this practice, but there are some countries like New Zealand and China where they allow the practice for commercial profit. Commercial deer farming is a relatively new business as people are becoming more aware of the benefits of deer velvet for medicinal purposes. The demand for the essence has since magnified. Commercial farms these days host an extensive variety of breeds like elk, moose, reindeer, and especially white-tailed deer. Though classified as wild animals, deer are easily maintained as livestock, and because they are not kept at a very large scale like other farm animals, artificial breeding is not something many farms have considered for them. Deer are very efficient natural breeders if you have a good ratio of males and females on your farm. Does go through heat multiple times in a breeding season, usually in 28 days intervals. This is to increase the chances of pregnancy for the survival of the species. The gestation period of a doe is anywhere between 200 to 240 days. Given the high gestation period, most does produce one offspring every year. Rarely it's more than one. The fawn needs the nutrients of mother milk for about 10 to 12 weeks before they are ready for weaning. After that, the young one can be separated and treated to normal food. Deer are animals that can survive on any green food available in nature, like leaves and grass. Their eating pattern is the same as other herbivorous farm animals like goats, cows, and sheep. To ensure a healthy upbringing in the farms, they are fed grainy feeds and supplements along with a steady supply of fresh water. The young one continues to grow, but the fawn doesn't grow antlers until they are at least 2 years old. Deer always start to grow their antlers in early spring and through the summer. The antler is known as one of the fastest growing tissue in the animal kingdom. A white deer antler can grow as much as a quarter inch per day. It takes about 120 days for the antler to fully grow and harden. Deer shed their antler naturally when it hardens. At the time of shredding, the antler is already considered dead. For extraction of velvet, the antler has to be harvested when it's still young, which is after 45 to 55 days of growth. The antlers grow fast, so it's important to harvest them in time. During this time, the antlers have a fuzzy layer over them and have a velvet feel to touch. This velvet skin carries nutrient-rich blood to its bone. This is the medicinal velvet essence many people are seeking these days. Now let's take a look at the processing and production of velvet. To accommodate the harvesting of velvet, the farms have a separate barn or area that is made for this purpose. The barn is set up with a good handling facility that has a machine to steady the deer during the procedure. The deer must stay unmoving during the harvesting process to avoid further injuries. The cutting is done by a person with expertise in that area to ensure that the process takes place safely, efficiently, and within the least amount of time. The cutting is done one at a time to make sure that the rest of the group isn't anxious. It's important to keep the level of stress in these animals as low as possible. The deer is first sedated to make this process as painless and humane as possible. At this stage, the deer antlers are very sensitive to touch, unlike fully grown antlers that feel no pain. Next, a cutting cable is wrapped around the antlers to mark the area and it plugs the large veins. Then the antler is cut swiftly using the chainsaw or any sharp saw of choice. The cut is always made way above the deer's burr. The sawing method is done quickly and neatly to avoid causing any further pain to the deer. Then in some farms, the deer is released after the after treatment is finished. Did you know that after sawing the deer runs away from the group? This is because deer considered antlers as a sign of dominance and hierarchy, and once they lose it, they are ashamed to return to their group. This aloof feeling remains in them until he sees that all his fellow deer are also lacking their antlers. And just like that, peace is restored until the next season when their antler grows again. Now that the harvesting is done, let's move on to the processing part. The velvet is then tested for quality control, and once they give the OK sign, it is tagged and further documented to make it traceable. The next process is sanitation and drying. For this step, the farmer has a variety of processes to choose from. The oldest and most effective technique, still popular among farmers, is the boiling method. Here, they stick the whole of velvet in boiling water and cook it for a few minutes. The time is calculated carefully because the velvet splits if it stays dipped for too long. The stick is dipped multiple times before it's ready for drying. They are cooled down in a room temperature or temperature-operated oven. Another method is where the velvet is placed in a hot oven for several hours and then dried at room temperature. Then the process is repeated several times. This process depends entirely on the length of the velvet stick and the climate outside. After the velvet is dried, it's time for the final process. The dried velvet stick is sliced into pieces and dried again before it's packed. It is either transported to the factories or is sold directly in the local and international market. Sometimes the farmers opt not to cut off the velvet and instead extract directly from the antlers. The deer is restrained and the deer's eyes are covered with a cloth to restrict him from seeing what's going on. An IV is inserted into the antler and the velvet is extracted right into the jar. Deer are easily panicked and highly intelligent, so you bet they'll freak out if they see a jar of blood filling near them. Several jars of velvet are shipped off to the factory, and thereafter a thorough quality test, the velvet is directly poured into the machine which dries and powders the essence. That's it, the velvet is ready for use. From there on, it is either made into different products, depending on the company, or sold off directly into the market. Overall, deer farming is a very easy, efficient business to get into if one is looking to raise a farm commercially. It's a pretty new agribusiness, but it's highly profitable. Deer have always been in great demand, whether it's for their skin, antler, meat, or velvet. While velvet is a great source of profit, it's not the only one. Deer meat is highly expensive than a cow, buffalo, goat, or chicken. As a herbivorous animal and a grain eater, it's very easy to feed them. Deer skin is very valuable in every market, local or international. It sells at a hefty price and has great demands in American and European countries. Overall, it's a thriving business sector to get into with high returns and low investment. The market for velvet is huge in Asian countries like South Korea, Taiwan, and China. As the demand increases, so does the price, and so deer farming is blooming every year. The huge supplier of deer velvet is New Zealand, and a report stated that the export value to China has nearly doubled in the past year, but South Korea remains the dominant market for New Zealand with a demand of 60% export value. It's a given since the velvet is set to promote youthful skin, sharpens thinking skills, and stimulates the production and circulation of blood. It is composed of amino acids, minerals, collagen, lipids, and protein. We are not even halfway into the benefits of deer velvet extracts. Let's list some more. As we know, velvet is said to have medicinal use as it helps improve the immune system and promote rapid recovery from illness. It's also effective in the treatment of high cholesterol, high blood pressure, weak bones, liver, and kidney disorders. It's also used as a tonic for children with mental disabilities and bone problems. That's too many benefits for one essence. So that was it for today, guys. Now that you have had an insider look at the deer farming business, what are your thoughts about it? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
When you hear camel, you might imagine the desert and a group of camel transporting people and loads from one place to another. While that is still their popular streak, over the years people have found many different uses for these domestic animals. In countries like Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kenya, and Somalia, people have found a new way of making a living off these animals. They don't lend camels as a tourist transport anymore. Instead, they farm them for milk. Yes, you heard that right. You'll be surprised to know just how useful these animals can be. But before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like these. We have many facts and information sorted on our friendly desert creature, so stick around till the end so you don't miss out on anything. For today's video, we are traveling in the scorching heat of Saudi Arabia to explore one of their famous camel farms. Camels are known as a desert animal that can survive excess heat and live on bare minimum water and food. So what happens when they're well taken care of on a farm with a continuous supply of food and water? They produce nearly 20 liters of milk per day, and that's coming from a single camel. In countries like Saudi Arabia, where it's difficult to rear cows for their milk demands, they've resorted to using camels instead. There was even a time when Saudi Arabia used to import milk powders to meet their domestic demands. But that's all in the past once they found a way around their problem, camel farming. Now the majority of their milk product market is surrounded by variations of camel milk-based products. In this video, we're talking about big commercial farms that house around 5,000 to 10,000 camels and work on making their own product. We're going to start with the reproduction process, making our way down to the milk-producing part. Camels are seasonal breeders, and so the month of November and December are best for breeding if the process of breeding is done naturally. Their gestation period is one of the longest of livestock animals. It lasts up to 390 days. That's 14 months of pregnancy. They give birth to one calf at a time. A female camel goes through pregnancy every 2 years or so. With better care and feeding, this number can be altered, but not by much. A female camel has 40 years of lifespan and can birth 8 calves during her lifetime. With better care, the number can be moved up to 13 calves or more. They become restless and move away from their herd as the calving times approach, and it takes nearly 2 hours to birth a calf. The calves stand on their feet within 20 minutes of their birth, and so the process of first feeding begins. The feeding of the calves depends solely on what the mother has to offer. The newborns suckle and rely on their mother's milk till they're old enough to feed on anything else. Thereafter begins the lactation period, which is very important for the milk production farms, as it's during this time when the female produces milk, ranging anywhere between 10 liters to 20 liters a day. A camel's lactation period lasts between 8 and 18 months. After the lactation period is over, the milk dries up and is of no more use to the farm until the breeding is done again. To commercially run a farm, the farm carefully divides its herd of camels into 2. While one herd of camels is pregnant, the other herd is already lactating and providing milk. Through this method, they ensure a steady supply of milk throughout the year. But it's not just the factories that require fresh milk. The calves also need their share of food. The amount of milk drunk by the calves is regulated by tying up one or more of the camel's teats. The amount the calves get is also determined by their need and the milking capacity of the mother. The camels are milked 2 to 3 times a day. During the daytime, the calves are allowed to run with their mother and are penned separately at night. If a calf dies during the suckling period, the milk dam dries up if the camel does not see her calf drinking from her. In cases like these, a foster calf is provided or some other measures are taken. In this case, seeing the skin of a calf should be enough for the mother to start producing milk again. The commercial farms are constantly working to make sure the quality of the milk is the best. For this, they have to make sure their camels are disease-free and follow certain hygiene processes. Common diseases that affect camels are foot and mouth, lumpy skin disease, camel pox, and mantitis, all of which can be prevented by vaccination and controlled by treatment and medicines provided by the vets. Camels are also bathed every day to maintain proper hygiene on the farm. Furthermore, they're also bathed with pesticides and acaricides to keep off pests and flies. They're marked on their furs or provided with tags to keep track of them. Camels can eat different varieties of forages, and they also have the ability to digest poor quality forages given the circumstances. In the farms, they're provided with top quality forages to graze on. Because the quality of the milk ultimately depends on the type of food they graze on, they're provided with supplements through their foods to further ensure the quality of the milk. Needless to say, they're provided with the best of food and a clean drinking water supply so they can continue to provide more milk. Another thing that determines their health and milk quality is salt. Camels like salt. Camels lose all the minerals they have through their urine, so to balance it out, they need regular salt licks to get the essential minerals they've lost. The camels reach puberty at around 1.5 to 3 years, but they're not fit for breeding until they're at least 6 years old. The population of the farm depends on the number of female calves birthed, who go on to breed more, and so the circle continues. Now that the female calves are lactating again, it's time to collect their milk. While in small farms this process is done by hand and is equally effective, big commercial farms choose to rely on modern machines to get their job done. A whole area of the farm is dedicated to the modern milking machine. The whole barn is filled with single-slot cages where the camels are taken for milking. Before the milking process begins, a small sample of the milk is taken from each animal for a quality check. Milking the camel is a painless and quick process, and it also allows the camel to function more comfortably once the excess milk is extracted. This is done 3 times a day, also depending on their demands. When the milk is not consumed fresh, it must be processed immediately in order to maintain the quality of the milk, as fresh milk is said to go bad very fast. The milk, when drunk straight after extraction, is said to taste different. So it goes through a long processing step to give it a taste that many consumers are familiar with. This process varies depending on the type of product that's being made. After processing, the milk is ready to be packed and supplied to the nearest market. Big companies like Saudi Arabia's Camelicious are known to use the milk in every aspect possible. They make a variety of flavored milk, ice creams, yogurts, chocolates, protein bars, and milk powders. They've found great commercial success in the Arabic market and now supply their products in over 17 countries. Camel milk has found a whole new market in the Middle East where this has essentially become the favorite daily choice for people. Camel milk is preferred by many, not just because it's the only available option, but because of the many benefits it provides. Camel's milk is found to be very nutritious. It's high in vitamin C, many minerals, and immunoglobulin, which boosts the immune system. The milk also has a different lactose component, which allows people with lactose intolerance to consume this milk without any problems. Several studies have also revealed the wonders it does to people's health. The milk has a positive impact on many diseases like diabetes, liver disease, jaundice, and many viral diseases. While milk is the most marketable product of the camel other than transport and tourism, it's also found a relatively small market in the meat and skin hide sector. Camel meat is a valuable food source rich in many essential amino acids, minerals, vitamins, and fatty acids. Apart from the nutritional value, it's also very cheap compared to beef and other meat sources. In Middle Eastern countries, camel meat is regarded as the main source of animal protein that equals and sometimes surpasses other meats. The hides and wool that come from these desert creatures may not be the most sought after in the market, but they also provide some value to the profit of those who rear them. Nowadays, everything comes second to milk in the camel farming industry. Their main focus these days has shifted to producing as much milk as possible. Anyone who wants to get into this business has a shot of success if they live in the right region. It takes a hefty investment to start, but once everything is settled and you have enough animals to make a living off of, it's smooth sailing. One thing to keep in mind is camel farming is relatively time-taking and requires more patience in order to see results compared to any other livestock farming. So if you have a hefty investment, everlasting patience, and love for camels, then this is hands down the best business for you. The good news is the industry is booming and reaching overseas. The growth shows no sign of stopping anywhere in the near future. Now that you've had an insider look at the camel farming business, what are your thoughts about it? Is it something that interests you? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you in our next video. How leathers are made hasn't really changed much over the past several years, but it's been modernized to the point that it requires more machine work than humans. There's a reason why real leather can cost you 3 months' salary. It doesn't come off directly looking like that shiny jacket you have in your closet. The whole process of making your beloved leather isn't an easy one. It takes more than 20 steps to get the job done. Today, we're taking a trip to the Leather Hides Factory and learning the in-depth procedures of making leather, from the farms to your closet. But before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. The first step begins with the farms, where the cows are nursed and taken care of for the entirety of their life. But now, it's time for the cows to begin their final journey, to the slaughterhouse. They arrive at the slaughterhouse and are tested by the vet for any form of disease or illness. When they're known to be healthy, the process of production begins. In the first step, they're slaughtered and skinned. While one part of the cows contribute to the world's food requirement, the other half goes to clothing it. The skins extracted from the cows, also known as cowhides, are sent to the leather production factory, where they begin the process of turning the cowhide into usable leather. The first phase is the tanning process, which is again divided into different parts. The first phase of this process focuses mainly on taking the raw cowhides and preparing them for the tanning process. Given that it's rawhide and would probably decompose within 5 to 6 hours due to buildup of bacteria if left as it is, the hides first need to be preserved. It's important to halt this natural process, and in big factories, it's done by wet salting. Wet salting involves the hide being dipped in an excess amount of saltwater solution. As it's dipped in the water, the salt works its magic and draws out much moisture from it. Once salting is done, there's no more risk of bacteria buildup, and the hide responds better to the upcoming tanning process. The hide is now ready for the removal of undesired parts. Here, the hide is de-haired using rollers and then fleshed. The final product now looks more like real leather. Moving on to the sorting and trimming process. In this process, the hides are sorted differently for a few factors like weight and quality. Here they check that the hide is of top-notch quality and will meet the requirements. Excess fats and damaged parts are trimmed here before the hide moves further into processing. Next enters the tanning phase, where the majority of work takes place. This phase focuses mainly on the prepared hides and turning them into shippable leather pieces. Earlier tanning processes involved using very harsh and smelly substances to prepare and tan leathers. This is made simpler by big drums that rotate and soften the leather inside them. All of the work is done inside the drum that contains chromium water. The chromium binds the collagen in raw hides and even increases the space between them, making it more stretchable. It also prevents the leather from shrinking in hot water. A chemical bath is equally important for the preparation of leather. This process is a lengthy one, and it takes nearly a day to finish. There are other methods of tanning available as well, but this is the easiest and most time-saving method of production. During tanning, the hides are dipped over and over again, so they collect a significant amount of moisture in them. Now it's important to rid the product of its water, so it's time for the drying and wringing process to begin. This step requires a huge rolling machine to wring the water out of the hide. Manually, the hide is passed into the machine, which then does its job and rids the hide of excess moisture. This process can also be done via vacuum suction, where you place the hide on a large steel plate set up in specialized machinery and let the automatic vacuum dry it for you. Now that the hide is dry, it's moved to the next step of splitting. The hide contains several natural layers. This is where the leather is thinned. This varies according to demand, as some orders require thinner leather for the production of gloves and other things. Here, the thickness of the leather is adjusted according to the requirement. Moving on to the shaving area. This area is operated manually. This is the area where the hide is given proper shape depending on its intended use. The whole piece of hide arrives here, and the skin that is ultra thin on the side and cannot be used with the final product cut off. All the cut pieces are either recycled or used to make products like belts, straps, and wallets, or discarded entirely. Back to square one again, the newly treated and refined hides arrive into the re-tanning area. You might protest, but the leather was just tanned. After the first tanning was done, the leather had already gone through several phases of production. It's important to re-tan the leather so that the main characteristic of the leather remains intact. This step helps the product maintain its softness, flexibility, density, and color. The process is done by rotating the hides in the big drums a few times until the leather really begins to have that finishing shine. The leather now has a blue hue to it, ready to be dyed. In order to provide different varieties of leather, the leather is dyed, colored, or bleached into various colors. In big production houses, they generally use the water-soluble dyes because it penetrates the material better and goes deeper into the fibers, making it more durable. This process can also be done using oil solubles. The use of drying products depends completely on demand. Up until this point, the leather has made a whole journey to the place where it now looks like the final product, but going through so many stages can also leave the leather stiff and dry, and so another layer of lubricant is used to make the leather more flexible and strong. This adds a certain shine to the leather. The next process is letting the leather settle into the finishing state. Here the leather is hanged and is left for air drying. This takes a while and has to be done accurately in order to get the desired result. During this process, the hides are stretched using a machine that allows all areas of the hide to be available for airflow. After this process comes proper drying. This step is done by big machines with hot and heavy rollers that press the hide and dry it completely. The process of drying can also be done by vacuum suction. Now the hides have entered the finishing process, a few final steps and the leathers are ready for shipping. These last few steps focus mainly on refining the leather with more specific qualities for its intended use. In the next step, conditioner is applied to the leathers. It helps them retain their moisture and oils that will keep the leather healthy and flexible. It also adds more shine. The next step is staking, or also known as dry milling. This process is to soften the texture of the leather. The leather is mechanically beaten to soften its texture. This step helps turn it smoother and gives it the feel of the leather that's available in the market. In order to give the leather its final shine and smooth texture, it's buffed. Buffing is performed with a sanding drum, which leaves one side of the surface smooth to the touch. We're nearing the end of the whole procedure. This next step is where the leather takes a different look and feel. During this step, the leather is passed through heavy machine rollers. The leather is pressed, and this stage is also where the leather is given a different pattern if required. After this step, the leather now has the appearance of a texture on one side. Surely it's done now? No, not really. It still has a few steps to go. The process of surface finishing is where it's changed for the last time. This process takes things to a whole new level, refining the product to its permanent state. This is also where important finishes are added to make the quality and the durability of the leather better. For the items that are to be used on a daily basis, this step is a great way to extend their life. Now that the leather is finished and good to go, it's time for testing the quality of the material. The leather is sent to a lab where a series of quality testers work their magic and approve the leather for trade. This step can also be done by the machines. Once they get the okay from the grading, they move on to measuring and categorizing the leather for sale. Once the leather is all rolled up and ready for shipping, it is shipped to its designated area, which is where the leather is shaped into the final product you find in the market. So if you've ever wondered why things made of leather are so expensive, now you know. That was it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more videos like this. In this channel, we've covered all about farming huge in-demand animals and livestock, but today, we bring you a unique farming that's only just gotten popular in recent years: crocodile farming. But before we start, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Though it's not widely known, we've done all the research to provide you with accurate information. So stick around till the end so you don't miss out on anything. Crocodile farming lacks the vast history that surrounds other animals, but it's just as impactful. It became popular around the 1970s when the growing demands of crocodile skin could not be sustained by wild farming. At first, it was primarily for the skin that crocodiles were farmed, but the farmers soon made their use as any other livestock. The demand for both the meat and the skin is still growing. From a survey done in 2016, it was revealed that 4,000 to 5,000 crocodile farms exist to this date. They vary from small-size farms holding a few crocodiles to a high-investment farm with 100,000 animals. For this video, we're taking a trip down to the swamp where the farming ultimately begins. The whole process of crocodile farming starts when they go to collect the eggs from the crocodile's nest. Female crocodiles are known to guard their offsprings aggressively, so it's important to make sure that the mother is nowhere near the nest when this process is taking place. The eggs are very prone to breaking. They could crack and break even if just jostled lightly, which is why farmers use a bag or a basket similar to their nest to bring the eggs back to the farm. Female crocodiles tend to lay 15 to 20 eggs at a time, so a trip around the swamp should be enough to collect enough eggs for farming. This method of breeding depends on the surrounding of the farm along with the capacity. This method of ranching is only possible if the farm is situated in the wild or near a crocodile-infested river or swamp. For the big farms that require large-scale production, they use captive breeding, the production of eggs from a captive adult in a controlled environment. After they're brought to the farm, they're kept in a temperature-controlled incubator, where they stay till they're ready for hatching. This process varies from farm to farm. Some store away their eggs in the incubator just as they're brought in, while others like to individually inspect the eggs and discard the dead and infertile ones. The incubator room is heavily monitored to make sure the eggs are doing well at the set temperature. If done right, the hatching success goes up to 80%. When the hatching begins, it's important to check the first hatch to determine if the remaining eggs are ready for hatching or should be left undisturbed for a few more days. In some cases, the hatching of the first one triggers the hatching of others, even if they're not fully internalized. In this case, the hatchlings may be kept in an incubator. Some hatchlings have trouble getting out of their eggs. In the wild, the female takes care of it by mouthing the eggs, but here they're aided by the humans, who keep an eye on the whole process. Hatchlings are then checked individually to determine their health, dividing healthy ones from the sickly ones. While the healthy crocodiles are washed and taken to the man-made habitat to begin their journey, the sickly ones are returned to the incubator, where they stay until they're healthy enough to be let loose. They're provided with extra care and medication to increase their survival rate, but the mortality rate of a sick hatchling is still pretty high. Some farms leave their hatchlings in the incubator for an added 2 to 7 days, whether they're weak or strong, to determine a higher survival rate. The new crocodiles like to swim in the water thanks to their natural instinct, and so they're kept in a low-level controlled water area for the first few days, where the newborns are first fed. Their feeding largely consists of minced or finely diced red meat, either pork or chicken. They're also provided with fish supplements. Being carnivorous animals, they must stock up on red meat to grow healthy. They're fed daily in the post-hatching period, but the feeding is gradually reduced to 4 to 5 days per week, depending on their size. This is mainly while crocodile farming is very expensive and requires big investments. The cost that racks up from feeding red meat every day is huge. Tons of meat is used per day in big production farms. They're minced in a barn and later supplied all over the farm. Farms usually have a machine helping them with this job. As the crocodiles grow in size and age, the meat is less chopped and contains bigger pieces. After spending a few weeks in the water, they're moved to their cages. When farming crocodiles, farmers have to keep in mind that they're very aggressive creatures, and that can lead to fighting among themselves. It's not just fatal for the crocodile, risking death or infection, it's also not good for their skin to have bite marks and scratches, which reduces its commercial value. They're separated into groups and are kept in a quiet environment to avoid stress or trigger any aggressive behavior. They also can't regulate their body temperature, so they must be raised in a good environment with a decent water source to keep their temperature regulated. They're placed in different cages depending on their weight and are fed every day. They gradually continue to grow and shift groups according to their weight. Diseases are another thing to look out for. While crocodiles have high disease resistance, a disease outbreak can still be problematic and can cause high mortality rates. While other parasite or bacteria that enter the crocodile are not as harmful to their health, but severely affect the quality of their skin. In case of disease spread, antibiotics are prescribed by vets, which are mixed with the food and fed to all, reducing the possible spread. Crocodiles have the habit of turning protein into body weight, and so we see their rapid growth in the first 2 years. During this time, they bulk up on body fat, and their skin grows healthy from the supplements and red meat. They grow very slowly after the first growth spurt, which is why most crocodiles are harvested within 2 years. Now they're ready to be sent off. After a quick health check, they're ready to be departed for the slaughterhouse. This final process is not any easier and is done keeping the safety of the workers in mind, seeing as how they're dealing with grown crocodiles now. The restraining of the crocodiles can be done by tightly wrapping their jaw and covering their eyes. This can be difficult as the crocodiles stress and struggle. The transporting is another feat, as extra care is needed to avoid dehydration, overheating, overcooling, and struggling. Some farms even use immobilizing agents to calm the crocodiles during the transport. Once reaching the slaughterhouse, the process of production immediately begins again. First, the crocodiles are immobilized before slaughter to make it as quick and painless as possible. There are a few ways to immobilize them, but electrostunning or euthanasia is a widely used method that makes them go unconscious and causes death with minimal pain. The first and most important part is to remove the skin safely, and even after all these years, this method is still trusted to human hands. Once the skin is safely removed, it's sent off for the tanning and curing process, followed by a lengthy production process which takes a lot of time. The body is given off for the meat production process. The legs and head are removed from the body, and the rest are divided into shapely pieces that are later put into packaging after a thorough quality check. This process is mainly done manually. Very little machinery is used for this, but in turn, the production houses must hire very competent workers to get the job done. After the quality check, the food is immediately packaged, weighed, and is ready for shipping. The demand for crocodile meat is still sparse, but if sold in the right place, it can be sold both domestically and internationally. The best-selling product of the crocodile is its skin, which is sold both domestically and on the international market. Products made of crocodile skins are very expensive and often seen in designer brands. They're used for making several products like belts, wallets, bags, and shoes. The demand for these products is what's keeping crocodile farming alive. But it's also important to give back where you're taking from, and so some of the crocodiles are released into nature to maintain a natural balance. When they're first left to their natural habitat after living on a farm, it can be a little difficult for them at first, but many survive due to their instinct. To keep track of them, the farm issues markings on their tails similar to clipping. This is called alligator farming. This is where they let crocodiles develop into alligators in the natural environment. This is important to keep their farms going. When the crocodiles mature and reach sexual maturity, they lay eggs, and the cycle continues all over again. With the growing demand for crocodile meat globally, farms like these need to exist to meet the demand. Countries like China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong demand a high export of crocodile meat. Nearly 85% of the meat in Africa is exported by them. About 70,000 live crocodiles are exported for farming each year. Africa and Kenya are the leading producers of crocodile meat. In Kenya, almost 33,000 crocodiles are living in a 110-mile space. But with all the safety measures and precautions taken, dealing with wild animals is still unpredictable, so this is a dangerous industry to be in. Now that you know all the insider secrets of the crocodile farming industry, what are your thoughts about it? Let us know in the comments, and thank you for watching the video. See you next time.
Grapes are the soft balls of juicy goodness that are pressed to make varieties of wine. Have you ever fantasized about plucking enormous bunches of delicious, sun-warmed Japanese grapes from your own backyard vines? Yummy! Japanese grapes are some of the best species in the world, with the juicy clothe on sale for $50 to $60 per kilo. How do you grow them? It's simpler than you might think. In this video, we will discuss how grapes are grown and harvested efficiently. Japanese grapes come in all cool colors of irresistible juiciness. We have a number of great species to choose from, like the Pitello Biano, Shine Muscat, Yatomi Rosa, Kyoho, and the Benifuji. The first step to success is choosing the type of crop you want. Do you want to grow grapes to eat or to make wine? Step 1. Decide where to plant your grapes. In essence, you need a sizable, sunny open area with decent soil. If they're grown vertically on a trellis or arbor, grapevines require between 50 and 100 square feet per vine. If they're planting horizontally in rows, they require a space of around 8 feet. In addition, 7 to 8 hours daily of direct sunlight. They can grow in a variety of soils, but they do best in rich, organic, well-drained soil. The soil must have been thoroughly blended with compost or another soil conditioner. The presence of air circulation on all sides protects against fungi-related illnesses like powdery mildew. Choose whichever species would be appropriate for that climate. While some species do better in temperate climates, some do better in heat. For advice on the best types for your specific needs and location, speak with your neighborhood independent garden center. Just make sure you plant your grapevine properly. Plant your grapevine properly. Table grapes don't require a complex support structure. However, getting them up into a trellis so you can easily prune and harvest them is a smart idea. Wine grapes will need a horizontal support system that allows you to train them and provides them with the support they require. You can plant your grapevines in the early winter in places with mild winters. It is better to wait till the beginning of spring in colder areas. Vine roots grow deeply, as much as 15 feet, so dig a planting hole that is about 2 feet deep and wide, and add compost to it. So what size vineyard should be planted? Table grapes that are mature can yield 15 to 30 pounds per vine. Perhaps only a few vines should be planted, since some grapes like the Kyoho could grow up to the size of a golf ball. About 12 pounds of mature wine grapes are produced each vine, and it takes 40 pounds to produce 12 bottles. You will want a larger number of vines if you intend to make wine. Maintain and prune your vines. On growth that is a year old, grapes bear fruit. Because of this, it's crucial to follow a pruning schedule to get rid of the old growth and encourage the growth of new growth. Not trimming firmly enough is the most common error while pruning grapes. You will really be removing more plant material than you are leaving behind once a grapevine has grown to full maturity. The rearing of grapes can be done in a few different methods. This depends on the objectives for your garden and the support structure you're thinking of implementing. There's the traditional system of 2 wires strung between posts, known as the vineyard style. This has the advantage of keeping your grapes in an accessible location for harvesting. Only a small area is needed, as long as a wall or fence. This technique uses a single central stem and a cane that is a year old with roughly 8 buds spreading out horizontally on each wire. There's also the use of pergola or trellis. This is a wonderful method to incorporate culinary plants in a decorative fashion. Grapes can be used to cover pergolas with temporary shade or to be trained onto arches. How pleasant it would be to grab a snack while goofing off on your porch. Here are comprehensive instructions on how to train and prune grapes on a pergola. If you're enjoying this video, please leave a like and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our videos. In the late winter or early spring, that's when you prune your grapes. There should be just 2 things left on your grapevine after pruning is complete: a permanent main trunk or trunks, and growth that is a year old. You won't want to keep all the year-old growth. That might just be too much. Remove older branches that are no longer needed. Then thin out and trim the year-old wood. A branch should have 2 to 8 buds left on it. To trim up the vines, pruning can be done in the summer, particularly if you see that they are performing a little wilder than you prefer. So in order to prevent powdery mildew, thinning can also assist the fruit receive more sunlight and more ventilation. If the fruit appears to be growing in a lot of shade, you may also try to thin it out. But if you don't, the grapes are put at risk of infection. The most typical disease affecting grapes is powdery mildew. By increasing airflow and periodically spraying in the spring, it can be managed. Facing bird trouble? Consider using netting to cover. It's also important to cover the grapes with a paper hat to prevent rain and direct sunlight since they are easily bruised and damaged. Imagine having a great deal of damaged vines of Benefuji that's worth $100 per kilo. To make sure they grow so well, every now and then, feed your grapes. Generally speaking, grapevines don't need a lot of fertilizer, so use it sparingly. Apply 8 to 10 ounces of 10-10-10 or 10-20-20 fertilizer in the early spring. Early in the spring, spread a layer of superior compost over the base of your grape plants. This can frequently give the earth the precise nutrients it needs to support the growth and yearly production of your grapes. The Japanese grape berry's red, lustrous fruit, which is packed with vitamin C, resembles our familiar blackberries or raspberries in appearance. Although the flavors are very different, it can significantly improve the fruits in our gardens. The beautiful part is that the Japanese grape berry self-pollinates, so you don't even need to plant many little plants. This plant is simple to plant on its own. So how should you go about it, or what should you watch out for? To cultivate the Japanese grape, pick a place that is moderately sunny to partly shaded. It also benefits from a humus-rich, potentially calcareous soil at its site, which you can improve before planting with a lot of compost. Here's a bonus! It has been discovered that pairing the Japanese grape with lily-of-the-valley plantings greatly boosts their summer fruit yield. But due to their rapid growth-induced spread, the space between each plant should be around 1.5 meters. As a result, you must piece by piece attach the Japanese grape berries, which can grow up to 3 meters in length, to a climbing frame. Plants also make lovely decorations for garden arches, particularly because you have a lovely garden season and a lovely plant dress from the flower to the fruit. For Japanese grape maintenance, remove stray shoots. The unusual-looking bloom buds of the Japanese grapeberry add a really special touch of exotic beauty to any garden, particularly since each bud's bright red bristles instantly irritate everyone's eyes before they bloom into white blooms in June. However, you should always remove the thrilling game rods in the fall. That's October to November. The gathered rods still hold true in this regard. One benefit of growing a Japanese grape in your own yard is that in our latitudes, pests rarely attack them. The cause of this is a gooey secretion that the plant produces and keeps insects away by excreting the plant itself. The plant has to be watered frequently during the summer, especially in the morning and at night, especially if it is to thrive in a region that receives a lot of sunlight. The plant of the genus of the rose family is also very thankful for one or the other fertilizer, especially in the spring, to the creation of fruits. You should always use a specialized berry fertilizer anytime you fertilize the berries. Japanese grapes are picked when the red fruits have a rich, wine-like flavor in the range of acidity, and you can harvest the Japanese grapes from the second year of planting, from the middle of July to the beginning of September. But this depends on the weather. The fruit production of a well-kept plant is between 3 and 4 kilograms every season. Freshly plucked fruits can be eaten, but watch out for thorns. You can also use the berries to make jam, juice, or jelly. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more amazing videos. See you on the next one. Until then, bye.
When you think of farming, you probably imagine a secluded ranch filled with cattle and run by a family as a means of livelihood. But hold on, farm business is not what it used to be. Now, farm owners play in billions doing what they love. To give you an insight into just how profitable the farm business has become, today we bring you the list of 8 of the richest farm owners in the world. But before we get started, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Some of the numbers we have on our list will blow you away, so stick around till the end so you don't miss out on anything. Number 8, Howard Buffett. Being born with a silver spoon and being the son of one of the richest men in the world, Howard managed to make a decent fortune on his own, without solely depending on his inheritance. Buffett, a multi-talented man, is not just an excellent businessman, but also counts as one of the wealthiest American farmers, holding a net worth of nearly $250 million. Howard began farming in Nebraska on land rented from his father, but he had big goals in mind and is working every day to make his dream happen. You see, Howard Buffett is passionate about ending world hunger. He has traveled to over 130 countries, both developing and underdeveloped. Hoping to help people in those countries, he created his own foundation named the Howard G. Buffett Foundation. By 2000, he was already funding projects around the world and putting all his resources to help people. He recently put all his investments to find a long-term solution for the world's hunger and hopes to solve the hunger problem by 2046. Making hunger his main target, Buffett is definitely a passionate farmer to his core. Number 7, Colin and Dale Armour. This New Zealand couple emerged like secret superstars in the farming business. They own one of the biggest farms in New Zealand, only recently gaining the media spotlight when they became the finalists in the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. The down-to-earth Armour family have lived and worked below the radar all their lives and are now one of the richest farmers in the world, holding a net worth of $535 million. In the 1990s, Colin and Dale Armour started their own family-based farm after they got married, and by 1993, the couple had several farms to their name. Not planning to stop there, they looked for many extension opportunities around Taupo, all the while working on circulating their dairy farming. By 2000, they opened nearly a dozen North farms. Deciding to go big, they opened a dairy holding with businessman Alan Hubbard and 2 other shareholders. All ups and downs included, today they're the only shareholder of the Armour Dairy Holdings and are one of the biggest milk providers in their region. Number 6, Tony Perich. Tony's love for agriculture was inherited. His father used to sell tomatoes grown by him in the markets of Sydney. He, along with his brother Ron, also inherited a farm from their father. His father's farm became the foundation for his success. Starting their business venture from the farm, the 2 brothers now own a combined net worth of over $1 billion, and Tony alone claims $750 million of the fortune. In 1953, the Perich family set foot in the dairy farming business and haven't looked back since. Today, their business has developed into one of the most successful and versatile dairy farms in Australia. Their dairy company now has over 22,000 cows at 2 locations in Sydney. They also have 6,000 hectares of land that harvests hay and grains for their animals. Taking the load of business on his back, Tony is currently working as the joint managing director of his company, Leppington Pastoral, and the managing director of Perich Enterprises. Number 5, Prince Kabir bin Mohammed. Prince Sultan Al Kabir, full name Prince Sultan bin Saud Al Kabir bin Mohammed, is a member of the Saudi royal family. He struck gold when he decided to get into the dairy farming business. In the Saudi desert, 90 miles southwest of Riyadh, you can find one of the many modern technology-equipped farms owned by the prince's company, Al Marai Company. Al Marai is the biggest food producer in the whole Persian Gulf, which processes about 235 million gallons of milk, according to a report back in 2012. The number must have increased significantly by now. Catering to everyone's demand, it provides milk, cheese, processed chicken, baked goods, and juices. Revenue has tripled over the years, and the stocks have skyrocketed, making its owner a billionaire. Over the years, the prince has collected a net amount of nearly $3.8 billion. But with his direct ties to the royal family and other business ventures, we may never know the exact amount of his earnings. Number 4. Harry Stein. Named as Forbes' richest farmer, Harry Stein is another gentleman of the farming world. Harry Stein is another farm boy who was already getting his hands dirty on his family farm by the age of 5. From a young age, he started helping out his parents on the farm, and so no one was surprised when he chose a career in farming. By the time he was in his late 20s, his interest extended beyond sowing and reaping on the farm. He was fascinated with the idea of genetic modification of crops, and once he found a few unusual soybean plants on his farm, there was no stopping him. He, along with 4 other seedmen, set up a soybean breeding program that became the first of its kind. The company dissolved in 1973, but Stein and his buddy Bill Eby weren't ready to wrap it up yet. That further research resulted in the making of Midwest Oilseeds. He also started selling soybean seeds under his own company, Stein Soybean Seeds. Though selling modified seeds proved profitable, Stein still wasn't satisfied. He was convinced that there was more he could do with soybeans, and so in 1983, they established Eden Enterprises, and this is where they struck gold. Their research was a mega success. Their technology was patented, and they began licensing the genetics to corporations like Monsanto and Syngenta, earning millions a year simply in royalties. Added up, he has a net worth of $5.6 billion. Number 3. Louis Yongjing. Yongjing is one of the risk takers on our list. He started his business from scratch and sold quite a few personal belongings to do so. In 1982, as a regular government worker, Louis decided to quit his job along with his 3 brothers. With no grand plan in mind, they sold off their watches and bicycle to raise capital of $120 for their startup. They purchased breeding chickens and quails and sold them off locally. When they saw a little success in their business, wasting no time, they tried their hand in the animal feed business. In 1986, he established Hope Group, which is now known as Hope Oriental Corporation. In 1992, their Hope Group became one of the biggest animal farm groups in China and one of the biggest non-government corporations. Now he's the chairman of Hope Oriental and is the biggest chicken provider in the nation, supplying to the biggest fast food chains in the country and exporting products to Singapore, Vietnam, and Indonesia. He's managed to be on the top of the richest man chart for the past decade, with a net worth of $6.6 billion to his name. Number 2, Liu Yanghao. China is a self-sufficient country in itself, so it's not a surprise we have 2 Chinese billionaires on our list. You'll be even more surprised to know that Yanghao is one of the 3 brothers of Yongjing who started their eggs and quail business together. When they split up, he started his own New Hope Group and stayed in business as the years went by. He saw similar successes to his brothers, if not more. Now he employs around 70,000 people and has around 600 subsidiaries in 30 countries all around the world. With trade and employment power like that, it's no surprise that Yongjing's net worth sits at $8.8 billion. Even with a large sum to his name, Yanghao is the image of a humble person. His life, though always discussed in media, lacks any bling of its own. The billionaire likes to live a humble lifestyle, proffering to drive a Volkswagen Santana rather than a Mercedes. He also owns a small piece of land in his hometown where he grows chili peppers and cucumbers. Number 1, Stuart and Linda Resnick. Stuart and Linda Resnick can rightly be called the king and queen of agriculture. Their swift planning and deal-making have brought them among the top 3 richest farmers in the world. We'll take a short journey to the far corner of Kren County called Lost Hill, where the couple has set their paradise farm. Stuart was a case of an accidental agriculturalist. He had many businesses before he ventured into farming. It started when he bought a small piece of land in the late 1970s. As the years went by, thousands of acres were added to it. Through the years, the farm has dealt with many droughts and water shortages, but the couple pulls off big investments to keep the area evergreen. Now the small corner of Lost Hill is a changed place, home to one of the biggest supply farms of almonds and pistachios. They live in Beverly Hills and fly in once or twice a month to check in on their empire. By the age of 81, he owned 180,000 acres of California and irrigated 121,000 of those acres. He shares his success with his wife, who's the secret behind his success. Stuart's net worth marks a whopping $9 billion to his name, and Linda has an impressive $3 billion to hers. Together they own Fiji Water Brands, Wonderful Pistachios and Almonds, Wonderful Halos, Justin Wines, and Landmark Wines. So that was it for today, guys. Let us know in the comments which one surprised you the most. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Remember our last video where we talked about Japanese grapes and what makes them so special? It turns out that there's more juicy sweetness to be found in Japan, and you will find it in the world's most expensive watermelon. The Japanese black watermelon is so full of goodness that it costs over $6,000. Really? How is the Japanese black watermelon cultivated, and why is it so expensive? Join us as we discuss the rich goodness of the Japanese black watermelon. The flavor is unmatched. Its sweetness would make you roll your eyes backward. The Japanese black watermelon is truly a delight. It is distinguished by being extremely red and crisp with about the same consistency as our watermelons, but with very few seeds. All this goodness is protected by tough skin with a very dark green hue that can occasionally appear black and glossy. But it's only on the northern island of Hokkaido that this Japanese watermelon grows. Outside of Japan, the Densuke watermelon is not yet commonly grown, but the seeds are starting to be sold commercially in Europe and America. Of the more than 1,200 varieties of watermelon grown around the world, none is more expensive or more sought after than the famous Densuke black watermelon. The Japanese black watermelon, or Densuke, is recognized as one of the rarest watermelons in the world because it can only be grown in small amounts that hardly reach 100 per year on the northern island of Hokkaido. So it's not the kind of fruit you would often find at markets or grocery stores. Instead, it's found at huge ceremonies or as a very special gift. The few fruits that are available each year are auctioned off to the highest bidder for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Due to COVID-19 outbreak, prices have decreased over the past few years, but the black watermelon type is still by far the most expensive fruit available anywhere in the world. And those who were fortunate enough to try the fruit have confirmed that it is superior to other watermelons in flavor. Aside from their rarity and outstanding flavor as reasons why they are so expensive, it's important to note that the final cost of the Japanese black watermelon also reflects the amount of time and effort put into their cultivation. Densuke watermelons can typically be purchased for prices starting at around $200 per fruit, which in most countries is still an outrageous amount to pay for a single fruit. And it's usually the first few lots of the annual crop that yield the highest prices at fruit auctions. A few years ago in Japan, one of these uncommon and exquisite watermelons sold for 750,000 yen, or $6,100. The black gigantic watermelon was auctioned off in northern Japan in 2008. According to Kazuyoshi Ohira, a representative for the Toma Agricultural Cooperative in Hokkaido, this is the highest price on record for a Densuke watermelon, and that probably implies it's the highest of any watermelon in Japanese history. Ohira remarked, "It's a watermelon, but it's not the same. It is sweeter to a different extent." Did you know that a pair of Yubari cantaloupe melons were sold as a luxury commodity for a record $23,500? These are the Rolls-Royce of fruits. The packaging for the Japanese black watermelon reflects its hefty price tag and is specifically compared to Italian customs. It is provided in a classy cubic cardboard box with padding to prevent denting, and also comes with a certificate of origin because it's crucial to provide confirmation of authenticity. They also need to be cared for and maintained for several months before they can be sold. Due to this, as well as the fact that this is a fruit that requires a lot of care and attention to grow, you don't expect the fruits to come cheap. The final price of this fruit reflects the effort and time put into cultivating it. In order to understand how these watermelons are grown by amateurs, it's important to understand that they generally take up a lot of room and are not easily nested in many gardens. The large size and the juicy, delicious flesh of Japanese black watermelons are distinctive characteristics that makes both large commercial farms and backyard gardens eager to plant this heirloom type. The flesh of the deep blue green-black melons is a rich scarlet color. They frequently do not have the distinctive stripes of more well-known watermelon cultivars. The melons need a long growing season to yield full fruit, and they can easily weigh up to 50 pounds. So how do you take care of them? These big, sweet melons can take around 90 days to mature, and they require a lot of water and sunlight to stay robust and healthy. These vines, which can reach a maximum length of 20 feet, function best when allowed to trail down the ground. But trellising is not advised because of the fruit's enormous weight. By resting the fruit on a piece of wood or cardboard to help keep them dry as they ripen, you can prevent rot and soft patches when growing watermelons on the ground. Make sure you check for ripeness indicators on fruits before you harvest them. Verify the tendrils connecting the melons to the plant. While tendrils near an unripe melon are still green, those near a mature melon will be dry and brown. Check the melon's rind as well. The rind needs to be quite tough, and the area that was lying on the ground ought to be creamy in color. So, how much light should the densuke get? Light. The Japanese black watermelon needs a lot of sunlight, just like all the other melons need. For these plants to continue developing healthily, they need at least 6 to 8 hours every day. The black watermelons thrive in organically rich soil. They favor warm, moist, slightly acidic to neutral soil environments with good drainage. Under the vines and fruits, a layer of organic mulch like straw will help keep the soil moist. Water. Since watermelons are among the juiciest fruits available, it's not surprising that they require regular water. Keep the ground wet but not drenched. Remember that it is with routine watering that the plants will remain healthy. Water the vines where they are rooted in the ground, but try to keep the leaves dry to prevent fungal issues. Only water the melons when the soil starts to dry out. This usually happens once the melons have reached the size of a tennis ball. Stop watering the fruit 2 weeks prior to its ripeness to raise its sugar content. Yes, that's how it's done. Temperature and humidity. These melons do not do well in cold climates and prefer warm ones. That's why Japan is perfect, but if you have the resources to simulate Japanese climate conditions, be my guest. Although extremely high humidity can result in fungus issues, the Japanese black watermelon loves damp environments with rich soil. Fertilizer. The black watermelons thrive in organically rich soil and love it. Before planting, enhance the soil with a lot of compost to make sure these melons have access to the nutrients they require. When flowers start to bloom, fertilizer can be applied to aid in promoting healthy fruit production. When a plant is first growing, it's best to use fertilizer with a nitrogen-based formula. Once the plant begins to bloom, you should switch to fertilizer with phosphorus and potassium-based formulas. But when you want to plant, it's best to start the seeds indoors for about a month before the last frost because these sweet melons take some time to mature. Here's how to get started. With the seed starting, plant the seeds 1/4 inch deep. Keep the ground warm and moist. Keep the soil at 70 degrees Fahrenheit or above to promote greater seed germination. Although a humidity dome will be helpful, it should be taken off as soon as seedlings appear. Reduce watering once seedlings emerge. Reduce watering once more when seedlings develop their first true leaves. Start the hardening off process as soon as the weather warms up so that the seedlings can be placed in the garden. These melons can be put immediately into the garden in regions with lengthy, hot growing seasons. Then take these steps. Plant the seeds in fertile, wet, well-draining soil 2 weeks after the last frost to a depth of 1 inch. Bury the seeds in soil. The mounding strategy works well with growing melons as well. Make a mound of soil that is 3 to 4 inches high and 1 foot in circumference. 3 to 5 seeds should be pressed into the mound's soil about 1 inch deep. Once seedlings have emerged, thin to 2 or 3 plants. Don't forget to maintain soil moisture. It doesn't end there, of course. You also have to watch out for pests and diseases. The most frequent pests to watch out for when growing black diamond watermelons including melon aphids, cucumber beetles, squash bugs, and squash vine borers. This plant is susceptible to fungal diseases like powdery mildew, alternaria leaf spot, stem blight, and downy mildew. It is preferable to stay away from planting melons where squash or cucurbits plants were grown the year before. That's the amount of dedication you have to give in order to grow the most expensive watermelon in the world. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more amazing videos like this. See you next time. Bye!
Farm businesses vary, from home-based farms to acres and acres of land being irrigated. Most of the farms these days occupy a large space as it is, but just how big can they get? In today's video, we're talking about some of the world's largest farms. These places will blow your mind when you see just how big they are, so be sure to stick around till the end so you don't miss out on anything. But before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. That being said, let's get started. Number 10, Marion Downs. For our first stop, we're going to the Marion Downs, also known as Marion Downs Station. Located about 56 kilometers southwest of Boulia, Marion Downs serves as a leased cattle station for the animals. This farm in Queensland is counted among one of the largest farms in the world. It occupies nearly the entire locality of Amaru and extends even further than that. The sheer size of the farm is no joke, as it occupies a total of 3,070,000 acres. The farm is well watered and kept alive to serve the purpose of cattle farming. Currently, the property is stocked with about 15,000 head of cattle and is owned by the North Australian Pastoral Company. But the most unbelievable fact is that the farm only employs 15 people. All this land and only a total of 15 people to look after it. Those people must be seriously skilled at their job to pull this off. Number 9, Wave Hill. Settled in the northern region of Australia, Wave Hill is one place that has a vast history of its own. The land has seen it all, from exploitation to rebellion. In 1884, the Gurindji people started farming on this land with 1,000 cattle, which later became 15,000 in 10 years, along with 8,000 buffalo. This large-scale farming attracted outsider attention, and soon a station was set on the farm. The people there became unofficial employees of the government and were provided with food, clothes, and tobacco in exchange for their work. And even when they were paid, their wages were 50% less than their fellow working Europeans. But a few years down the lane, the Gurindji people finally recognized the exploitation and went on strikes, moving away from land when their demands went unnoticed. After years of protesting, it was only in 1975 when the Australian government handed over the land lease to the Gurindji people. Through ups and downs, Wave Hill still remains one of the largest farms in the world that has over 50,000 cattle and surrounds 3,330,000 acres of land. Number 8, Inaminka. Okay, now enough with the northern Australian farms. Let's move on to the southern part of Australia. Located more than 200 kilometers southeast of Birdsville, Inaminka serves as a leased pastoral. It's been serving as a cattle station for nearly a century now. The station occupies an area of 13,500 square kilometers and is the second largest station in all of Australia. Looking into its history, the station seems to have suffered a great deal due to nature. Established in 1872 by Robert Bostock, the station had over 8,000 cattle by 1881. But the impressive success of the station didn't last long, as it was struck by the wrath of nature. Continuous flood and drought surrounded the settlement once every few years. A drought in 1914 through 1916 killed over 10,000 cattle on the station. And when the area flooded in 1959 with over 21 inches of water in 4 weeks, it was called the vast inland sea of Coopers Creek. But the area management got better with time. Today, Inaminka, which means your shelter, your home, remains true to its name and houses over 13,000 cattle, occupying nearly 3,340,000 acres of land in total. Number 7, Home Valley. Located in Western Australia, Home Valley is one of the most popular holiday destinations since 2006. But even though it serves a new purpose of serving the tourists, it remains an active cattle station. The pastoral lease is currently owned by the Indigenous Land Corporation, along with nearby Kurunjai Station and Durack River Station, which together cover an area of 3,500,000 acres. Being a part of the redevelopment program, the valley was open to tourists in 2005 before it became an official holiday resort in 2006. The valley proved a great secluded place away from the hustle and bustle of the city. The farm also provides a series of activities like horseback riding and hiking. Number 6. Davenport Downs. Davenport is the largest cattle station in Queensland, Australia. The property is a combination of two lands, Davenport Downs and Springvale. The whole 3,700,000 acres of land is used as a cattle farm and is part of a bullock fattening operation. It can operate with over 29,000 heads of cattle. The whole place is looked over by 10 staff members who live on the property. The station is equipped with all necessities for both the cattle and the staff members. The property also has a great water supply throughout the year, as there are many waterways that tap into the Great Artesian Basin, as well as the Diamantina River. Unfortunately, it also means that the station is prone to floods during heavy rainfalls. The station has quite an interesting history of drought and floods. But what stands out are a few series of bizarre events that took place here. In 1930, the body of an unfortunate German traveler named J.J. Leylands was found at a wayside camp at Davenport. He was said to have died of dehydration at Springvale, and his body was later washed down by floodwater. In 1992, the station was infested with feral cats, and the problem got so out of hand that the government had to send in sharpshooters to cull the cats. They shot down 500 cats within 3 days, and it took a while before the whole problem was sorted. Number 5. Alexandria. Alexandria is the Northern Territory's largest pastoral property and Australia's third largest cattle station. If we go 173 kilometers northwest of Camel and 270 kilometers east of Tennant Creek, we reach Alexandria, which occupies around 4 million acres of plain land for cattle farming. Alexandria is the biggest and oldest property owned by Northern Australian Pastoral Company. The farm is covered by Mitchell grass that supports a herd of 55,000 cattle and even spares some more, which allows the owner to harvest hay to send to other properties. Initially, only the Brahman breed was farmed here because they're more adapted to the heat and harsh environment. But as years went by, Elmont and Charbray breeds were added to the herd. The land is managed by 50 people who live and work here. We can only imagine how tough it is for them when the floods roll in. Not just that, the farm has quite an interesting history where 2 unfortunate deaths have occurred on this secluded farm. One in 1885, when a station hand named Ross was killed by an alleged axe-wielding assailant. Witnesses said that the murderer was one of the Aboriginal people who were camping nearby, and a search was conducted with no final result. Another man died in the same year. John Corbett was digging a well when the dynamite he was using exploded prematurely, killing him shortly after. Accompanied by a series of record-breaking floods and droughts, for a secluded place, this farm sure has a lot going for itself. Number 4. Clifton Hills. Clifton Hills is the second largest farm in Australia, situated around 4,200,000 acres south of Birdsville. In an area this big, the nearest population around is still a day's drive away. This is one of the first farms to use road transport as means of cattle delivery, aside from rail transport. The station was established in 1876, and since then it's had many owners. The most recent event was when it was put up for sale in 2018. The area was put up for sale along with 18,000 heads of cattle and was bought by 2 people. The farm carries a head of 18,000 cattle and is licensed for up to 21,500 more. A land as big as a town. We can only imagine how much it sold for because no further information is available about the trade. Number 3. Anna Creek Station. Finally, we're down to the top 3. Let's wrap up our Australian farm tour with their biggest station ever, Anna Creek Station. While all farms on our list are big, the remaining 3 farms are ridiculously massive, both in size and capacity. The station is only slightly larger than Israel, occupying a grand total of 6 million acres. The nearest town to the station is William Creek, which is still a day's ride away. So if you're planning to visit the station, you better be prepared to stay the night. Secluded from civilization, the station has every basic necessity to work on its own. They use motorbikes and even aircraft around the animals. The property was established in 1863. It was originally used for sheep farming, but due to constant dingo attacks causing massive losses, they decided to switch to cattle. By 2007, it carried only 1,500 head of cattle due to the droughts of the 2000s. The station only restocked around 2011. Now it can carry around 16,500 cattle on a good season. But did you know that despite being so secluded, the station has access to television and the internet, and every once in a while you can even expect a helicopter to deliver your things for you. Number 2, modern dairy. For number 2 on our list, let's go to the most populated country in the world, China. In Anhui, China, a farm surrounding 11 million acres is located. Established in 2005, the farm is equipped with all the modern facilities technology can offer. It started with a whopping 40,000 cattle head, but it didn't fare well at first. In fact, in the initial years, the dairy struggled to make a profit as a rumor was spread that they sell milk off cows that are positive with bovine tuberculosis. But once the rumor was tackled and the farm assured everyone that they produced only the best quality milk, there was no stopping them. The cattle head increased with the years, and soon modern dairy became the largest dairy farm in terms of herd sizes, as well as the largest raw milk provider in China. Number 1, Mudanjiang City Mega Farm. But the title of the king still belongs to Mudanjiang City Farm. This mega city farm covers an area of 22,500,000 acres. That's 2 times bigger than modern dairy and nearly 4 times the size of Anna Creek. This is the most recent established farm on our list. It was established in 2015 as a response to the Russian ban on dairy products, where it's set up to fill the loss of dairy products on the market. If the sheer size of the farm wasn't shocking to you, hear this. The farm has around 100,000 cows and can produce around 800 million liters of milk in a year. The farm is equipped with modern farming equipment and is very efficient. Over the years, the outlet of the farm seems only to grow bigger. That was it for today, guys. Which one of the above shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos like these.